Good afternoon. I wanted to come live on Instagram for a quick check-in. I haven't been live. I think my last live was March 4th. And we are, what day is today? March 12th, March 13th, something like that. So I haven't been live for quite some time. And I haven't been posting for a little while as well. So I wanted to do a quick check-in. I think by now, because I've been kind of speaking out about what I've gone through since November, I think by now everybody is pretty well aware of the kind of situations I've been dealing with. It's been really crazy. I've gone through this situation for active gang stalking, it's going on 2 years. 2 years that I've been actively gang stalked, and it's been absolutely crazy. I found a couple things. First of all, this happens to many people, and no one really says anything. I guess everybody's very scared. In the process of me going through this, I've met many people that it's happened to, of all walks of life, of every race, every gender. It's like no one has been exempt. Every socioeconomic background that you can think of. So I mean, in a way that's been emotionally helpful, because, I haven't felt so much that I was targeted for personal reasons. I know now where I always was aware where this came from, who was targeting me, and who was behind it. I have his picture on my page. His name is John Ferreira. So first thing I want to kind of talk about is where I am with things now. So that's the first check-in. I'm at a point now where, I've reported this so much. I've updated the police. I'm very shocked at how it's been handled. I know I shouldn't be shocked. Maybe that's part of me being naive. But I realize now that nothing has been done on the policing end whatsoever. There's been no investigation that I know of. If they are doing something, then I am not aware of it. So I have no idea how that goes. What I have been told is that if there is an investigation, I wouldn't be aware of it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I guess I can say where I've planned or wanted to be with the situation. And that is essentially where, I always knew I couldn't control whether or not I can't control other people's actions. So I can't control whether or not this stops, but I've stayed with the situation long enough to really get a handle on how to protect myself, how to close doors, how to essentially, basically, it's like the weapons conform, but how to make sure that they don't prosper. So it doesn't mean that people still do not try to follow me. It doesn't mean that they don't try to hack me, or they don't still go through everything that they always want to go through. I think it is now gone from, not I think, I know it's and it's been like that for a while, for many months, where it stopped being funny, it stopped being a joke. That was at my expense exclusively, and it is just now a situation where it's terrifying also, or more so for the people who are gang stalking me than it is even for me. So at this point in time, I'm the calm one in the situation. I'm the one who is in control of, my emotions and, what I'm doing about my life and the direction I'm taking. And I know for a fact that all the main people gang stalking me, following me around, trying to push me out of business, all the people going out of their way to bully me and intimidate me, it is no longer funny for them. Nothing feels safe for them anymore, because the people that they've taken money from to do this obviously need a return on investment, and that is not happening. So there's that. That is the update on where I am now. I still don't think, I'm very shocked that, I will continue to say I'm very shocked this is happening in Canada, and I'm very shocked that this is happening in plain sight of everyone. And I'm very shocked at how much the police know and that they don't do anything. People are more worried about me speaking out than helping me or stopping what's going on. It is crazy. And that is all I can say about it. It is crazy. It is nuts. There are a lot of people that are terrified, and I know so many people in the real world that are going through this situation, that are active victims of this situation. And I can't imagine this going on for very much longer, because the intended purpose of the entire exercise is lost, because it's just gone on too long. It's been very ineffective, and as far as everything's going, it's backfiring. There have been a lot of people who have said things like, be careful, and, aren't you scared, and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, when you're going through something for 2 years, it becomes normal very quickly. This is a part of the normal life that I live, and this is the way that I live now, and this is just the stuff that I expect. So, it is what it is. As far as, so my YouTube is pinned, it's God's Way 1019. And I implore people to check it out. I mean, for whatever purpose, if you want to check it out for informational reasons, if you want to check it out just to keep yourself informed, if you want to check it out to, for gossiping purposes, whatever, but I do put out quite a bit of information, and some of it is very spiritual, some of it is very technical knowledge, just based off of things that I've observed. A lot of it is very helpful for people going through the situation or having gone through it already. So do check it out. The YouTube again is God's Way 1019. And I'm just gonna kind of, I'm gonna do my live here. Today. I do my lives on different platforms. I'm going to do it here today on Instagram, because I haven't for a while. So first things first, I guess this kind of ties into people who kind of ask, like, am I scared? Am I nervous? To be honest with you, no. I've said this so many times. I stopped being fearful of this situation a very, very, very long time ago. This is not a situation that gives me anxiety. It does in the beginning, but I also talk about on my platform, on my YouTube, why you don't want to be paranoid, have anxiety, anything in these kind of situations. I do believe everything happens in God's way, good or bad. And that's why my YouTube is named God's Way. Good or bad. And this is what I want to talk about today. So, obviously when there's multiple players in this situation. I feel like I have a fairly decent handle on what's going on. Not to say that I know every single thing, every single detail, but I have a fairly good handle on what I think is going on. So first things first, there's myself, there's my ex, who's probably been dealing with this for a very long time. There is a practitioner / gang stalker / hacker. He's the one who his picture and his story is pinned on my page. He was the one who's paid to do this to me. He has a business where this is what he does. And then there is the person that paid for him to do this to me. I think everybody in the situation, including myself, definitely looks on the situation right now and definitely thinks of what they could have done better, on how they could have avoided being in such a situation, and if it was worth it, if what they got out of the situation was worth it. And I want to go ahead and say emphatically no for all 4 of these characters that I've spoken about. I think the person who paid for the job to be done and the job didn't get done, and who's also facing karma, is definitely thinking, what the heck did they get into? I think the practitioner for sure is number 1, thinking, what the heck, this was not worth it. I definitely think my ex probably, who knows what he's thinking and feeling. I'm pretty sure he's thinking to himself, should he have dated me? Should he have been involved with these people? Was it worth making money this way? I'm positive. I'm positive he's probably going through even more abuse because they can't get to me. Probably everybody that is associated with me is probably under a lot of pressure. And for myself, I felt that way maybe briefly in the beginning, but to be honest with you, I probably feel less so than maybe everybody else involved. And reason is because I really see the silver lining to the situation. I see how I've evolved as a person. I see God in a very, very, very literal, real sense in my life. And I see the things that have transpired and how it's kind of pushed me in a direction I probably would not have gone into voluntarily. I've had to learn to release control, and I've had to just see things play out in the way that they have to play out. So I have a very different perspective on the situation, and I have God's full support and encouragement in the situation. I'm on the right side of karma, and I feel good about myself, to be quite honest. So there is that. But I think everybody here is in some sort of learning stage. And I think the cycle of whatever we're going through, the climate has changed significantly. And, we're just at a point where people are doing whatever they can. The practitioner is, John Ferrer is fighting for his life at this point, working for his survival, working to stay alive, and I think that in and of itself is a lesson. And I'll kind of go through it a little bit. So these kind of experiences that all of us are having, they very much will challenge a lot of the ways of thinking. And I will more so address it from the perspective of the people who are trying to block my life, destroy my life, and, get rid of me in a very literal, physical sense. I think these experiences definitely challenge people's delusions of grandeur. And what I mean by that is there are people walking around that feel like they are a god. There are people walking around that have such an influence on the justice system, that have such an influence on other people, that feel so worshipped by other people, that have so many people in fear and under their thumb, that they do walk around as if they are God. And they don't worship God. And so they feel as though whatever it is that they worship is more effective than God and more real than God. There are people that just literally don't believe in God. And I think these experiences definitely challenge those notions for sure. I think the experience with me has challenged people's perspectives of women, especially Black women, myself being a woman of color, women being inferior, women being less spiritually strong, women being, in their mind, supposed to be subservient to men. And just maybe not that smart. I think people looked at me, and maybe there's some who still do look at me and think I'm not that intelligent. I'm not that bright. I'm not that observant, that, anything to cut me down. Perhaps I don't deserve any of the things that I've worked incredibly hard for. That I'm not a good person, whatever have you, whatever, you can think of. And I definitely feel like regardless of if people want to remain delusional intentionally or if they want to admit it to themselves silently at home, but I definitely feel like this experience has definitely probably made people think twice about the way in which, they navigate dealing with people and what is possible to happen. I think it's very obvious, sometimes you can get away with something for a very long time, and there comes a time where you have to think to yourself, probably this is the time that you're not getting away with something, whether that be spiritually, literally, or in whatever way possible, regardless of what's happened historically. I think that people have really had to evaluate the value of money in the things that they do. So, you know, I've heard this. I heard this specifically in the beginning of everything that was happening. Somebody that was trying to negotiate with me to travel every 6 to 8 weeks to Mexico or whatever, and Colombia and whatever the other Latin countries. He said money over everything. I remember this distinctly. He said money over everything. And I thought, money is definitely not everything. And I think this experience has really, really challenged the greediest parties in this situation. People that really put money over everything. I think at some point you sit back and you look at the trade-in for money and whether or not it's worth it in a very, very real sense. So trading in money for your health, your rest, your peace of mind, your relationships, your freedom, your networks, your social stature, your credibility with other people, your popularity, your employment opportunities, your hope, your will to live, your mental health. I don't think when John Ferreira sits back, he thinks that any of this was worth it. Whatever he was offered to put me in this situation, I know for a fact that there's no logical person that can think this is worth it. To be in a situation where you're constantly threatened, a situation where it's now led you to bankruptcy and struggling financially, a situation that's impacted your health both physically and mentally, a grueling situation where you literally have to be up 24 hours a day monitoring a situation, running out of ideas, running out of resources, running out of help. I don't think it's worth it to anyone. I would hate to be in that situation myself, and to be trapped in a situation like that, to be cornered on all sides and not being able to get out of the situation. And the only way logically out of the situation, like you can't back out of it, but the only way logically out of the situation is impossible, is through God. I think it definitely makes a person second guess if truly it's money over everything. I know I personally wouldn't take money, and I've always known that, and this is why I don't take money in these situations. This is why it didn't tempt me. This is why it was of no interest to me, because money absolutely is not over everything. Having a peaceful night's sleep, being able to walk freely, being able to focus as you plan, as you make things happen for yourself in your life, I think is invaluable. I definitely think people are questioning spiritual truths as far as the fairness of the universe, as far as who God is, and definitely if God is real. I think the people in this situation are people who have to be disillusioned. I don't think anybody expected me to make it this far and not in this situation. I don't think people expected me to still be in control of my life and not be at their mercy. I definitely feel like people definitely felt like God is a man. And, that's one of the things that I'm prouder of, to be honest, most proud of, is that, now when I say God is a woman, and now when I talk about God, it's less funny to people. People who know the situation, I would venture to say it's probably not funny at all. My God is a woman, and I believe God is the universe. God is creation. God is the source of creation, but the universe is fair. At some point, the universe is fair. I think that it takes someone to be strong enough to stand up to a situation, and perhaps that's not everybody. And, people do have free will and they can give up their power and give up their control. But if you stand firm in God and you believe in God, then you are protected, and God will see you through. And I think people are really at a point where they're very seriously questioning, like, what have I got myself into? Is God real? And have I made a fatal mistake with myself? And the answer is yes to all of those. In these situations, people paint a lot of illusions, and they strive for you to not have confidence in your sense of reality. And it's definitely a situation where I think the people that are involved are questioning their confidence in the realities that they're in. I think they're keeping a brave face. I think they're trying their best to stay positive under very extenuating circumstances. I think people don't want to be involved and they're trapped. People are living almost like in the upside down place where nothing is normal, nothing is going as it should, and everything is almost guaranteed to fail. Every new step taken is almost guaranteed to fail. A lot of illusions about who people can trust and what people around them, what their true motives are and what they really think, and just how fickle people actually are. I think in the same way that people were very confident that police are bribable, I think that they notice that there's a shift in people's loyalty and allegiance when there is no money. Definitely, a lack of faith in what is going on. I can only imagine how it must feel to start off on this cycle, bullying someone, being aggressive to someone, and then seeing this person come forth, make videos about what they're going through, and then know what you've been doing behind the scenes, and then letting you know that this was probably orchestrated by the universe, and this is really a targeted set of events to get you to a place that you need to be, which is not here. I think that is probably scary. I think that probably will shake a person's sense of reality. I'm pretty sure a person would prefer to be in a state of delusion than to accept that a God that they didn't think was real is actually taking action against them because they've done this way too much. I think that is probably the scariest part of the entire situation. And if it were me going through it, I think that would be the scariest part to me, is just to think that I'm usually the person controlling other people's narratives and sense of what's real. And now I'm in a situation where not only have I lost control of reality, but it almost seems as if all the forces outside of me are against me. So that is definitely, and it is probably going to be a situation where, this person is saying that I'm evil and I'm a witch and I practice black magic and all this stuff, and who knows, right? Definitely a lack of confidence in the information being consumed. There's a lot of information being provided and one can never really tell who the source is. Is it being manipulated? It is just a situation where hidden forces are kind of directing everybody down a particular path. And you just find that every single action that you take seems to be orchestrated in some way, shape, or form. Definitely truths about key relationships and a lot of betrayals, a lot of partnerships coming undone, a lot of alliances coming undone, groups of people going against each other. This is something where when it starts coming out, nobody wants to be involved, and that's just the long and short of the situation. And just questioning, like, are you in fact being hunted? And if you're in a situation where you think you're the hunter, are you the hunter or are you being hunted? Very difficult to tell, because imagine a situation where you're hunting by pursuing, because we always think of hunting as you running away and being the runner. But imagine a situation where you're not the runner, you're the chaser, and you're still being hunted and not knowing what to do because you can't stop chasing because you've been commissioned to do a job by someone where there is no way out of getting the job done. So I imagine it's probably a very stressful situation. And a situation where someone definitely has to look at their sexuality and the acceptance of others. a situation where somebody probably has been very judgmental about other people and their sexuality while living a secret life. Maybe just coming from a culture that's very judgmental of people's sexuality for sure. Um, you know, I think definitely when someone feels like the world is a cruel place and people are no good, it's probably very fascinating, if anything, and I use fascinating because I don't know what other word I would describe it as, to know that good people do exist who can't be bought, people who stand by a moral code. That it was probably a better idea just to be yourself all along than to have this sort of fall from grace, and loss of credibility and be viewed as a liar is probably worse than just outrightly being known as a horrible person. To accept the flaws in yourself and in others and not be judgmental and condescending towards other people when you are guilty of the lies that you tell about other people. I definitely am of the mindset that the longer karma takes, the harsher the consequences. There are people where the first thing that they do that they're wrong, karma stops you immediately. I'm definitely one of those people. I cannot get away with anything that I do. I've just learned from a long time ago just not to bother, just to live my life straight, like on a straight and narrow. It doesn't make sense to try to steal from people, rob people, tell lies on people, slander people, gossip about people, hide my hands. It just hasn't made sense. And it is what it is. I think, and the last part I guess I'll leave it with is, because I wanted this to be quite shorter. I've been a very kind person my entire life. And this is what I've come to, the conclusion that I have come to in this situation. Not being liked by people when you are a very kind person has been extremely confusing. Realizing that you have not been liked due to lies and slander, it's been a mixed set of feelings for me. Like, on one end, obviously nobody's happy to be slandered, but on the other end, it's just been, well, at least I know why. At least I know it's not because of me, because I've spent a long time kind of questioning like what on earth I've been going through. And then realizing that the lies have been protecting you for quite some time is just comforting. So, because there's always been some sort of jealous person throughout my life who's done exactly what John Ferrer has done to me on a smaller scale my entire life, who's discredited me, who's questioned who I am, who's made up lies about me, fabricated who I am. Because this has happened for such a long time, I'm very used to this behavior, but also it's kind of kept me safe and hidden. And I think if people had to, maybe I would have gone through this earlier had that not happened, had people not discredited me and kind of buried me in a pile and put me aside. So I very much trust that everything that's happening right now is happening the way it's supposed to happen in the time that it's supposed to be happening. And I say all of this to say, if you're going through anything right now, if you're going through, not anything, gang stalking specifically, if you're going through it, just keep going. At different points in what I was going through, it has been different levels of challenging, and different levels of oppressive. And as soon as I just decided to surrender control of the situation and just surrender to the flow of how things have happened, it's not that the way things have happened have changed, but it's just that I haven't had to be emotionally involved in what's going on. Do people still try it with me spiritually? When I'm out in public, on my platforms, all of that, absolutely yes. But, I just know it's working out for me, and everything is always redirecting me to where I need to be. So, it is what it is. It costs what it costs, and it takes as long as it's going to take. And that's all it's going to be. So if you are being gang stalked right now, just give yourself time, give yourself space, and release to the situation. But just remember that your life is your own, and you have the power to give up on yourself, or to be strong in a situation that's grueling. And I always say for myself, all the odds have always been against me, not just in this situation, in general. I've always had odds against me in general. I've never had help in general. I've never had anyone fight for me in my corner besides God in general. So it's nothing new. I'm very used to being on my own, surviving on my own, learning and adapting and building in very grueling situations. So it is what it is. But for me, I feel like, that is what that is. But people who have maybe been used to having a lot of support or used to having people there, like going through the situation, is going to be tougher than normal because no one is going to come to save you. It's like you're on your own. So that being the case, that is the end of my live. Thank you very much for tuning in. And again, my YouTube is God's Way 1019.